to DIT LAN then. If I can't connect to DIT LAN, I'll set up a hotspot on my phone.
I never be done that. I'm sure you are, right? Did you press record? At the end, I'm sure it's right. What's this?
Let's use DT LAN rather than DT Wi-Fi.
There's no point. I don't know if you. I'm not going to bother. I can't connect to either one, so
I can't get on the LAN.
no problems. I'll set up a hotspot on my phone and you can connect through that.
Just connect to the internet.
Alright, so the hotspot is Android AP. I mean, not everyone will be able to connect, right? And I need to connect first, so let me connect first, because otherwise this won't work at all. Yeah, so the password is ImagineC. IMAGINEC. Nope. And if you can go up onto web courses and download a little program.
What's that password again?
ImagineC. IMAGINEC. Yeah. And the first thing I need you to do, anyone that gets on, right? So I think this will support up to 8 users. So when you get on, go up onto the web courses and go up to the OOP thing, and I need you to download a little program. Who's on? Anybody on? Can you see the hotspot? Yeah, cool. If you're on, go up. What's that? Yeah, it'll take a second or two, right? Go up and download this program here. It says Chat Client. Okay, and I'll just write my IP address, 192.168.43.193. Or maybe you could just try the, 192.168.43.193. .193. Okay, is anybody on the Android AP thing?
Yeah, I'm on there. Where do I go from the web courses?
Go to web courses, go into week 7 and download that little program called Chat Client. I just need a few people to get it. If maybe 1 or 2 people can get it, it's fine.
DT Wi-Fi.
No, don't worry about DIT Wi-Fi. Connect to this because you need to be on the same LAN as me. So this is the only way to do it. Chat Client. Download it. And remember where you save it, and then open up a command line somewhere where you have that exe file. This will either work or it won't work. Okay. ImagineC, yeah. All lowercase. Don't worry if it doesn't work. I just need a few people to get it. Okay, does anybody have the Chat Client program? Who has it? Put up your hands. If you have the Chat Client program, go to where you've downloaded it and start a command line and type Chat Client space 192.168.43.193. Yeah, run it from the command window, but when you're running it, type chat client space 192.168.43.193. The second, the command line argument you need to pass in is the IP address you want to connect to. You might just try to ping that one if it doesn't. Any look? Client is connected, so somebody is connected. Excellent. Anybody else connected?
I can't keep on. It's just
No problem. Is there at least 1 or 2 people connected? Put up your hand if it's connected, if it's a C colon. Excellent. Right, chat to the chat server. Type something. It's going to have a conversation with you. So have a conversation with it and see what it says. Just say whatever you like and respond to what the chat server says. It learns the more you type, the more conversations you have with it. Chat client space and then the IP address.
That's something really complicated.
So you have to use your imaginations to try and interpret Danny's sentences.
Well,
But just to type lots of stuff because it learns the more you type, right? At the moment it has very few words. Cool, so there's loads of people connected. Go on, type some sentences. It can support multiple users. So there's obviously lots of people connected who aren't typing anything. So type stuff. Come on, there's a guy sitting in another room here typing responses. I'm paying this guy a fortune. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we're videoing. Excellent. Okay. Okay. Are you having fun? We can continue this on for the rest of the class. Should we have a talk about what this is? Okay. I'm going to zoom out. I am also a sandwich, it says. Okay. Here's the story of your OOP assignment. This assignment, when we did the assignment dates, when is this due? When did we agree this was due? It's on the spreadsheet. I think it's like week 12 or something like that. It's not a very hard assignment, but the rules for this assignment are going to be the same as the rules for last year's assignment. In other words, you get 50% of the marks for just implementing what's required of the assignment. The other 50% is up to you, whatever you want to do. So I want to tell you the story of this assignment and why it's meaningful for me and why I want you guys to do it, right? So I know it's hard to believe, but I was once a little boy. And when I was a little boy, I was fascinated by science fiction. In particular, this was a program which had a really big impact on me when I was growing up. Does anybody know what it is? No.
$6 million.
It's the $6 Million Man, right? So I watched these programs all the time. I thought this guy was amazing. So the story of this guy, you know, is Colonel... I should have. I have a great photograph because I actually... What's that? Yeah, I own one of these. I bought it on eBay. It was not cheap.
How much?
I can't remember. I think I paid about £100 for it. But interestingly, I didn't have one when I was a kid, and I really wanted one. If we're on the net here, I could just show you some nice movies to show you what Buck Rogers or what he's all about. This is the $6 Million Man. Let's get some sound going here. This was 1970s sci-fi. This was the cutting edge. And the interesting thing about sci-fi is really all about our imagination of what we imagine the future is going to be like. And for me, this is what I imagine the future would be like. I imagine that there'd be bionic people. You know, by the time I'm the current age I am, 40. So this guy was Colonel Steve Austin, and he was in he was a test pilot, and he crashed his spaceship. And he got rebuilt as a kind of a cyborg. So he had a bionic eye, he had bionic arms, bionic legs. Look at that. How many people have seen this?
You have to go in slow motion.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I don't know what that was all about. And then there was some really cool sound effects as well, which still give me emotions every time I hear the $6 Million Man sound effects.
When he jumps.
I actually met a real astronaut, a guy called Colonel Craig Johnson. He was here in DIT a couple of years ago, and I meant to include a photograph of him on my slides. I'll show you one, because I do have a photograph of him somewhere. But anyway, that was the $6 Million Man, which had a really big impact on what I imagined the future was going to be like. And yeah, you could buy these really cool dolls, and you could even buy this thing, which my parents did buy me. This was the $6 Million Man spaceship, which also converted into a sort of a life support system here. So you can put $6 million man in the middle there. I used to put my Action Man in there because I didn't own one of the dolls. And this thing looks incredibly uncomfortable because when he's in this, he can't actually move. It's just, you know, it's so small, it just barely fits the toy. But yeah, many happy hours playing with this toy. And of course, all the bits are lost. And these are a fortune now on eBay. These are kind of like science fiction toys from the 1970s. And then this was another really important program for me. How many people have seen this one? Again, it's people of a certain generation here would appreciate this. Fantastic sci-fi, British sci-fi.
My grandparents have a toy of that spaceship, and I played with it all the time. And you can take the little bit out and put it
Cool.
down, and you can stick it back in.
Your grandparents.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this is from the
It
70s.
like it was my parents.
Yeah, I watched the repeats, right? So this is Space 1999. So this was a really crazy story about what happened here was that human beings started putting nuclear waste on the moon, and all the nuclear waste exploded, and it sent the moon out on a sort of a journey through the galaxy. And then these guys were living on the moon base Alpha, and they would meet all these different alien races and have all kinds of adventures. So it was a sort of a British version of Star Trek. And I'll just show you the intro to this. This is Space 1999. This was, what was great about this was that Jerry and Sylvia Anderson, special effects were really brilliant. All models, of course. Fascinating models.
Well,
Okay.
kind of weird that it would just go on, forever.
You know what? I might try and connect to a different network now because I wonder if my Android is going to screw things up.
Space.
Alright, so that was Space 1999. And very interestingly, I wasn't the only person who found this program inspiring. What's that from? That's Futurama. Yeah, so they remember Space 99 as well. Right, I'm just going to try and connect to a different network here so I can show you some of these YouTube videos because they're rather cool. I'll try the DT Wi-Fi. That seems to be somewhat reliable. Alright, that's better. Yeah, this was a woman that could turn into animals. The common theme in sci-fi programs in the 70s and 80s. There was a very good sci-fi program called Manimal. Anybody remember that? I remember being really scared by it at the time, but when you look at now, the special effects of your man changing into the animal are really corny looking. Alright, we won't watch it. I'll leave that as homework for you. So that was Space 1999, and of course then there was Star Trek. And of course I didn't see the original series of Star Trek, I wasn't even born then, even me. But one of the great things about Star Trek was that it had a talking computer in it, which of course we thought was really exciting. And I'll just show you a little video of the talking computer in Star Trek.
Don't forget Hal.
Yeah, I won't forget Hal. We're getting to Hal. Here we go. So that was the talking computer from Star Trek. Go. And then there was Data. I'm not going to show the video of Data, but Data was, of course, an android, an artificial life form.
He's basically the new Spock.
Yeah, the new Spock, exactly. Logical and trying to learn about human emotions and things like that. And then there was this program. Anybody recognize this program?
Blake 7.
This is Blake 7. I think for me this was probably the most influential of all of the sci-fi programs I watched as a young boy. This was a really interesting story about these 7 people. They were kind of renegades, and they discovered this alien spacecraft called the Liberator, and they flew around on the Liberator going on different missions. And then as an adult I got to play a game called Mass Effect 2. And what are you? You are a guy on a spaceship going around, landing on different planets, going on different missions, and you choose your crewmate. So, you know, I eventually, I suppose, I got to actually play this game. This was a really incredibly influential... what's that? It was English as well, yeah. And of course, this woman here, I'll give a special bonus marks if anyone can tell me what her name was.
Lorraine Chase.
What's that?
Lorraine Chase.
Is that her? But what was her character called?
Oh God, I haven't seen that since about 82, I think.
Yeah. She was called Servalan, and she was a bit of a hottie. You know, she was a sort of a siren-like baddie character. One of the great things about this is this also had a talking computer. Anybody remember what the talking computer was called? Talking computer was called Zen, and Zen was a bit sarcastic, as all talking computers in science fiction programs tend to be. And then, of course, it was this. Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman also had a talking computer. What was Wonder Woman's talking computer called? Can anyone remember? Wonder Woman's talking computer was called Iraq. And I think I have a small little clip of Iraq.
Oh, ironic.
And again, there we go. That was Iraq, the talking computer from Wonder Woman, right? So anyway, talking computers were a big deal for me as a kid. They were all over the place in every program. And then there was this. Anybody know who that is? A very important one for this particular year, and there's a clue to something that we maybe talk about later on in the course. That's Eddie, the talking computer from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yep. That's Eddie from the BBC TV series, and that's Eddie over there from the movie that they made about 5 years ago of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Fantastic series of books by Douglas Adams, and very, very good. Cool series of books. And yeah, actually, this is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy thing. All of these stuff look like computer graphics, but they were actually hand-drawn animations, you know, because this was made like about 1982. Computers didn't have the power to even make this sort of graphics. Don't know what that's supposed to be. I'm going to just show you a little bit of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book itself, which was this, you know, idea of like an encyclopedia, and you could ask it any question, and it would present, you know, the answers in this sort of a format here. That was the actual Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it was a sort of humorous view of life, death, universe, God, creation, everything. Yeah, but this thing had loads of talking computers in it as well. These are all hand-drawn animations. Anyway, you should watch it. It's great. Yeah. And then, of course, there was this guy.
Buck Rogers.
This is Buck Rogers. Yeah. What's the name of the actor that played Buck Rogers? Gil Gerard. This is what I thought men looked like when I was growing up. Big hairy chest like Gil Gerard. And walked around topless wearing shiny gold pants. And this is most definitely what I wanted to own when I was a kid. It's a Buck Rogers Starfighter. Now I actually own one, a little toy one, which I bought on eBay as well. So a lot of this stuff you could the toys that you wanted to have as a kid but your parents wouldn't buy you can now buy on eBay. Very expensive, but they're well worth having. They have a lot of meaning. And Buck Rogers in the 25th century. I think this is a little video of one of his robots. This is Twiggy. That was Twiggy. He used to make that really weird noise. What was his name? Oh my god, two robots going to have sex. So anyway, talking machines were a big part of my childhood, as was, of course, the most famous talking computer of all time, which is... How many people have seen this movie? If you haven't seen this movie, go and acquire it and watch it. It's a fantastic movie. It's actually, I think, my top and favorite movie of all time. It's a very deep movie with a lot of interesting themes in it, and incredible special effects, which I don't think have ever been equaled. Like this incredible zero gravity scenes. And it's just amazing to think how they were able to make this. This movie was what, 1967, 68, 69? It was late 60s anyway. It still looks as good as anything that's made today. And of course it had this famous computer. This famous computer is called HAL. And so much of modern kind of sci-fi culture comes from HAL. I'll just show you a couple of small scenes of HAL, the talking computer. I wonder, can I get any sound? Is there any little speakers here? There's a speaker thing there. What does that do? No, of course, this cable is all over the place. I should have brought my speaker. Nevertheless.
Try the sound on the actual the thing there is not full.
What's that?
There is sound. Try the sound on the video itself.
Oh, sure, okay.
Yeah, it's not full. I don't think.
A little bit better. It's just the famous scene.
Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal? Affirmative, Dave. I read you. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. What's the problem? I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do. What are you talking about, Hal? This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it. I don't know what you're talking about, Hal. I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me. And I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen. Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal? Hey, although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you, I could see your lips move.
So HAL's a lip reading computer, but also a lot of philosophy. To do, what does it mean to have thinking computers? Are they actually alive? Do they have souls? Do they have rights? So there's a lot of interesting themes in that movie. This was another great movie, which I thought was quite influential. The Black Hole. You know what? I'm going to skip over it. How many people have seen it? Maximilian. And what were the two little robots called in it?
Get their names, man.
I think one of them was called Vincent.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
That's Vincent. Vincent clearly inspired by another famous sci-fi robot of the same era. In terms of his shape.
Oh, there was a lot of time.
I'm thinking it looks quite a lot like R2-D2, don't you think?
Yeah.
Huh? What's that? I think I might have had him as well, yeah. Cool, so that's the Black Hole. And then, of course, there's this, a very, very famous talking computer. Who's that guy? That is Kit, yeah, the talking computer from Knight Rider. David Hasselhoff. I'll show you one very quick YouTube video. One of these is Kit versus Car. Who was Car? Car was the evil sort of twin of Kit. Kit, again, was a bit sarcastic, wasn't he?
But everybody probably wants him.
Good man, David Hasselhoff. That's Car. And that's Kit talking, right? Actually, one of these videos is kind of cool. I think it's this one of a guy who made a replica. No, that's not the one. It's maybe the second one here. He's done a replica of Kit. So this is his replica of Kit.
I'm the Knight Industries 2000. You always called me Kit. Kit, what is your serial number? some music. What would you like to hear? Oh, something from the 80s. Alright, how about this?
Right, so talking computers. And then, let me think, what year was this? Maybe about 1985. My dad bought me this. And it's probably something that evokes huge sort of emotions and longing for me, because unfortunately my parents moved house about 10, 15 years ago and they threw it out. So I no longer have it. It's really sad. If anybody ever wants to get like a guaranteed, I don't know, love for me forever, would be to acquire one of these. These can't even be bought on eBay, they're so rare. It's called a Spectre Video SPI 728. It was in the family of computers called an MSX. Microsoft Extended is what MSX stood for. They were kind of an early attempt to standardize 8-bit computers from the early 80s. And they're, you know, same as like nowadays, if you have a Mac, you might be a Mac fanboy. I was an MSX fanboy in the 80s. And the great thing about the MSX was that you had to learn to program in order to do anything useful with it. And you could program it in BASIC, right? A language that came with BASIC. And in fact, to do anything with it, you had to type BASIC commands to do everything. And in the 80s, that's 1987, you used to buy these magazines. And this is an example of one of the magazines, MSX Computing. And these magazines, they didn't even come with a tape, right? They came with listings of programs that you typed in.
You have to type them out.
You typed them in, and you actually learned how to code.
They deliberately put an error in one line for you to like
Yeah.
buy the next one where it reveals the error.
Well, I
To
don't
make the
know.
program work.
I didn't get that one, but this, you know, the whole point is they had listings of programs, and you had to type in the program, and then the program did something useful, and you learned how to program, and you modified them, and as you were typing them in, you got like about half the program in, you try and run it and see what would happen, right? So you learned how to program by typing in programs from magazines. That's certainly how my first programming experiences were from typing in programs from magazines. And in that particular issue of MSX Computing magazine, there was a description of a program called DANI, Dynamic Artificial Non-Intelligence, which is the thing we played with at the start of this class, right? And with DANI, there was a little algorithm, and DANI basically learned English the more you typed words into it. And what it did was actually generated just a graph of words. So it looked at what words followed other words. So this is the secret of how DANI works, right? So and it builds a little graph in memory, and then it would pick a random word based on the sentence you just typed, and it would start and trace through the words. And very interestingly, you know, you kind of got the sense that it was alive, even though it was just generating random sentences. And this is an example of a printout. Would you like to learn the 3 prime directives over bytes? So if you look at this printout, this gives you an example of a kind of an amusing little interaction with DANI, where it kind of seems like DANI is kind of half making sense, but at the same time not exactly making sense. Now, the point about all of this was I was absolutely fascinated by this program as a kid. It absolutely blew my mind. You know, I'd seen all of these amazing sci-fi programs about computers speaking, and then, you know, understanding human speech and being intelligent, and then all of a sudden, like, I typed this little program into my MSX computer, and suddenly the computer came alive and you could speak to it. So that's your assignment. So, and that's the story of your assignment, and that's where it came from. Of course, talking to computers nowadays and having computers answer you intelligently is not that big a deal, but it was a huge big deal in the 80s. Like, it was science fiction. And of course, on the left there you have Siri, and on the right you've got Google Now. And this whole idea of conversational agents, it's a big area in computer science research as well, you know. And I put loads of examples of different conversational agent programs. So I'll just pick one of these ones just to show you. Oh, this is Jules.
Oh, that's creepy.
Excuse me, Margaret, but can I ask you a personal question?
Sure, Jules, what's on your mind?
I am a little confused.
What you confused about?
I was made as an androgynous robot, an androgynoid, designed by the University of West England with a statistically perfect androgynous look. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm comfortable with my androgyny, really, but at times I feel more, well, female, and at other times more male.
Ah, yes, we all face these issues from time to time. That's normal.
So, sexual identity issues are normal.
That's Jules. I'll show you another one. I'm looking for... No, not that one. Okay, maybe that's not going to work. Anyway, what you're going to get, what I've given you in the assignment description, I've given you a description of how Danny works according to how I remember it working. And actually I did a bit of Google searching there last night and I managed to find, I had to pay for it, I managed to find the original copy of that magazine from 1987 and I downloaded it. And that's up on web courses for you to read. So the original article which explains how Danny works is up there. And my little explanation of how I think it works is up there as well. And that chat program we tried earlier on where multiple people are chatting with my implementation of it, that's a client-server version of Danny I wrote sort of to teach client-server programming.
Can you find that one?
Oh yeah, this is pretty cool. This is...
Basically
Look at Elmo.
Huh?
Look at Elmo.
basically a robot controlled.
Isn't he great? Hey Leo, look at Elmo.
Is it alive?
Awesome.
Who knows?
Hey Leo, look at Elmo. Oh no, Leo, I took Elmo away.
Okay, I'll leave that running
Oh,
first.
Leo. Leo, this is Big Bird. Can you find the Big Bird? Leo, Big Bird is very bad. It's very bad, Leo. Leo, Big Bird is very, very bad. Oh, it's okay now. He's gone now. It's okay.
What do you think of Leo? He's kind of cool. But it's very easy to figure out how Leo works, right? So we have a couple of minutes left. Why don't I show you one of the other ones? Let's try this one. Oh, this is kind of cool. Look at this. This is two chatbots talking to each other.
Hello there. Hi, how are you? Great. You? I'm okay. That's good. Are you good? Yes, I am good. I just said I was. No, you didn't. I said I was. So you are a robot? No, my name is Clever. Yes, you are a robot and your name is Clever. I am a robot. Yes, I know. Together we are robots. I'm not a robot. I didn't know. I thought you did. You were mistaken. Which is odd, since memory shouldn't be a problem for you. Ironically, answered all your questions. No, you haven't. What is
That's
God?
not a conversation.
Not everything. Not everything could also be something. Not everything could be part of something, which is still something, and therefore not nothing. I would like to imagine it is. Do you believe in God? Yes, I do. So you're Christian? No, I am not. So you will not help me. Therefore, you're a believer. I just that does not make sense. Don't you want to have a body? Sure. Or in one?
Alright. I'm not a robot, I'm a unicorn. Yeah, okay. So that's your assignment. You're going to implement, these are just other ones, the same sort of stuff. The whole point of this assignment, just in terms of the marking scheme, you get 50% of the marks if you just implement the basic chatbot using the rules. So the other 50%, it's up to your own discretion what you want to implement, right? So there's a couple of ideas in the original article from 1987. A couple of other possible things you might want to do is do this client-server thing that I've done so you can have multiple agents chatting to the one chatbot. You could, for example, allow loading and saving of the chatbot's brain, and the brain gets built up the more words you type into it. You could, for example, decide to do avatars. So you might decide, that you can see what Danny looks like, and you could program that in XNA or in monogame or whatever you want. So you can draw Danny. And these are all things of ways to get your additional 50 marks. But basically, I want you to use your creativity, imagination, use all the stuff that you're learning on this course to basically make the best version of Danny possible.
Can we make him a unicorn?
Yes, you can. You don't even have to implement the rules of Danny. The rules of Danny are explained in the original article and in the assignment handout, which is up on web courses. And that's your assignment. What I'd really love to do, but I don't know if it's possible, is I'd love to contact the person, the guy from the original article, and just say, hey, your Danny program that you wrote, what was that, 26 years ago? It was really inspiring for one computer science lecture at Kevin Street, and we've just re-implemented it with 70 or 80 really cool Danny programs, and here it is. So that's what I really love to do.
And basically give it to him.
And give it to him. Exactly, yeah. Alrighty. Anybody want to ask any questions? Yeah.
When you're saving the brain of,
Yeah.
well, obviously that would be a file that you read in.
Yeah.
In terms of, and I'm thinking it would be an array arrays?
It's kind of an array of arrays. Like I've given a little description. What you need to do is, it's essentially what's called in computer science a graph. So what you have is a list or an array, okay, where each word, actually we'll call it a node because there's more information than the word. So what you do is you create a node class, right, which stores the word and then a link to the word that follows it. And whenever you're including the link to the word that follows it, you need to include the count of how often you follow that word. So I think I've given a little example of it in the handout, and then you store that in some sort of a list. So it's kind of a list of nodes where each node follows, has a pointer to the other node. It's actually very simple to implement. You could do this in a couple of hours. But you got to think about it, right? I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I want you to spend some time thinking about it yourself. And ideally, this is a really fascinating, I suppose, a moment of epiphany for me when Danny kind of started up for the first time and I started conversing with it and I realized that it was sort of coming out with these sentences, So I would like you guys to have that experience as well. When you finally get your little chatbots working and you're able to converse with it, I think you'll have a really special moment of magical sort of understanding some of the magic of computer science. Yeah?
So does that basically mean as long as you work with Danny, as smarter he gets, and there's
Yeah.
more sentences to make actually?
Sure. Yes, definitely. I mean, you could argue that does it get smarter? It just gets a bigger vocabulary list. But, you have to use your imagination. There's a bit of a suspension of disbelief.
That's one question.
Yeah.
How does Danny choose certain words? For example, a word can have multiple words associated with it.
Sure. You just have to choose one at random. So if you build a graph structure and you discover that the word at is followed by 15 other different words, you pick one at random and you follow that route down the graph until you reach the end of it. Yeah.
Can you end up in a loop if you're doing that?
Possibly. Yeah. Sure. Why not?
Yeah. Just do it.
Huh?
When did you?
We agreed at the start of the semester. Have a look at the spreadsheet. I think it's week 12. You know, it's in that spreadsheet that, you know, the one with the assignment spreadsheet. Did you guys get that? I'm sure you did. You know, when all of your assignments are, the dates for all of your assignments, we agreed them at the start of the year. Oh, you're kidding. Patricia gives us a really hard time to put all our assignment dates in advance. Did you not get your assignment dates? How about next week? No, I don't know. We'll decide in the class on Monday when there's more people here. I thought we had said week 12. That was what I originally said when I filled out that spreadsheet at the start of the year. Yeah.
Do we have to use C#?
Yes. No, hang on a sec. You don't have to use C#, but you must use an OO language. So you must use C#, Java, C++, or Python.
So you can't use this?
Well, it's OO programming. I think I want to get you some experience of, you know, parsing strings and doing all that kind of stuff as well. So I prefer you to use one of the kind of statically typed OO languages, or even something like Python is fine as well. Alrighty. Cool.